What are the takes you could have when hearing the speech? One, which I have just dismissed, is that Starmer is converting to the dissident right's outlook and becoming based. Another is that he is, in plain sight, admitting that both parties are pursuing population replacement, but is blaming the Tories and Brexit instead of Labour. He might not be referring to the Great Replacement, but to the hyper-liberalisation which pushes for cheap labour. I do feel it much more likely that with by design, he is referring to this. Indeed, supporting this is a line from a subsequent speech where he said, "The Tories lost control of immigration, opened the borders deliberately to conceal the extent of their economic stagnation." The cheap labour importation process can be seen as a function of neoliberalism, which has been the consensus of all major parties for the last 30 years. With that brief Corbyn blip. Blairite Labour might be willing to do more public spending and infrastructure investment, but it is still wedded to big business, and thus cheap labour, austerity, supranationals, and to some degree privatisation. Either he can't see Labour has been taking this approach, or he knows full well and is projecting again. This is apparent because he barely mentions the corporations behind the cheap labour, and rather is targeting the Tories and Brexit. He wants to undermine his opponents rather than change the system. He's realised that linking mass immigration to things is a way to discredit stuff he hates, even though ironically he loves mass immigration. Whether with by design Starmer is referring to neoliberalism or population replacement does not necessarily matter. Whatever he means, it's probably because he has focus grouped the subject of immigration, realised it is unpopular, and is throwing some raw meat to the red wall. Because he's not been too specific, he can deny it later if there is a progressive backlash. Strangely, there wasn't one from the stormtroopers, only the momentum types. Starmer had given the Labour moderates permission to be reactionary, when if a Tory had said it, then their outrage would be indistinguishable from the Corbynites. Red Wall voters, of course, are in the process of having their heads turned by Reform UK. It is obvious Labour have noticed this, and was confirmed further when during the assisted dying debate the next day, Starmer crossed the House of Commons to act pally with Nigel Farage. Voters might see this and think, oh, he's on the same page, or at least, he's not so bad after all. The last explanation is that Starmer just doesn't understand what he's talking about, and is all over the place. Perhaps there are the proverbial monkeys with typewriters coming up with on-the-fly party policy. It's possible, but it's much more likely there is some calculation. Even if Starmer and many of his advisors are stupid, not all of them are. It seems Morgan McSweeney is an upgrade from Sue Gray. For evidence supporting the notion Labour is simply paying lip service to the issue and has no intention of acting on it, we need only look to the 2024 manifesto. Legal immigration did not feature at all in it, despite the noises about reducing it that preceded the election. Neither will Starmer, in his current guise, commit to a figure with which to cap immigration. A reluctance to set a cap is madness to me, for any party. In recent years, it is only the centre-left SDP that has done. The SDP proposes 50,000 per year, while we work out what our work visa needs are. Even Reform will set no cap. The first sign that someone is not going to deliver something is their refusal to set terms or name figures.